call the Malden School Committee meeting to order. The time is 6:03 p.m. Today is Monday, March 6, 2023. Our next meeting will take place on Monday evening, April 3rd at 6 p.m. here in the City Council chamber. We're first going to pledge allegiance to our flag, as we always do, followed by a moment of silence for all those who have served our country and continue to do so today. Our clerk, to my right, to your left, will then take attendance to ensure that we have the sufficient number of members here that allows us to conduct business. We will then have Mr. Weldi introduce our interpreters for this evening's meeting, and then we will get into this evening's agenda. The agenda consists of the approval of minutes from last month, February 6, 2023. We will then open it to public comment, at which time we will ask that you state your name and address for the record, and we ask that you keep your remarks to just a couple of minutes. Then we will move into the superintendent's report. She will give us a monthly review of where the district has been and where it's going. There will be a specific discussion around the Accelerated and Enriched Academic Program, otherwise known as AEAP. We're then going to move to subcommittee reports, where we'll hear from Ms. Spatafora regarding policy and procedure. And then there are a series of motions and resolutions that we intend to take up this evening. One, again, has to do with accelerated student learning, safety extenuating circumstances transfer policy. Then there will be a resolution offered by Mr. Bernard in support of an act relative to universal school meals. Then Mr. Weldi will propose revising the Malden Public Schools calendar for 2023-2024. And then finally, we will take up a school choice vote, which will also be led by Mr. Weldi. Then after that, the members will take moments of personal privilege to let the district know what's happening in their respective wards. And then we will entertain a motion to go into executive session for 4 reasons. The first is to approve the minutes from February 6th. Then there will be a discussion on strategy relative to collective bargaining or litigation, which has to deal with Malden versus Supervisor of Public Records. Then the third item will be to take up the contract renewal of the Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. And then finally, we will take up negotiations with our Assistant Business Manager / Financial Analyst. We then will come back out and we may act on some of those topics in executive session. Regardless, after we're done, we will then move adjournment until our next meeting. So if there are no questions of the members, let us first pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask everyone to please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to protect us today. Thank you. Our clerk will now call the roll.
Mayor Christensen?
Here.
Mr. Drummy?
Here.
Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
Ms. Spatafora?
Here.
Ms. Macklin?
Here.
Mr. Weldi?
Here.
Mr. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Bernard?
Here.
Ms. Rosaiba?
Here.
Superintendent Noriega Murphy?
Here.
Student Representative Hakawi?
Here.
So we have a sufficient quorum that allows us to come together this evening. We will now have the introduction of our interpreters by Mr. Weldi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick point of information for Martha and the team. It looks like I've got 2 Mandarin interpreters, both Lisa and Wendy.
Yes, I just realized that as well. Lisa, why don't you hop off and I'll circle back with you after this, okay?
No problem.
Thank
Lisa's
you.
there. All right, Wendy. Great. Okay, so for anybody at home on Zoom that would like to access the interpretation, please just go to the interpretation button. It is live, and select your language, and the channels will go live now. All right, we are good to go.
Thank you. First, we have the regular session minutes of February 6, 2023. Motion by Mr. Drummy, seconded by Ms. Spatafora. Any questions, queries, qualms, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. All right, everyone, we're now at public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Malden School Committee. We ask that you come to the podium, just state your name and address for the record, and please just keep your remarks to a couple of minutes. As you can see, we have a large turnout here this evening, and we're also going to be toggling back and forth between in-person and on Zoom. So with that being said, the one other caveat I would ask, when you do speak, just try to speak slowly so it gives our interpreters the opportunity to translate. All right, very good. So public comment is now available. Again, just please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
So we'll toggle in between Zoom and in person. Anybody online, just use the raise hand feature on Zoom, or if you're calling from a telephone, just dial *9.
My name is Bonnie Littlejohn, 127 Emerald Street. I am reading a statement from my friend who could not be here this evening, so this is her statement. Good evening. My name is Dawn Marie O'Toole, and I live at 130 Adams Street in Malden. I am unable to be at the school committee tonight, but still feel very compelled to speak before a final decision is made in regards to the AEAP. After the last school committee meeting in February, I was reviewing the slides from the superintendent's report. One slide that stands out to me was titled, "Every School, Every Classroom, Every Day." This slide reads, Malden Public Schools believes that all students have the right to a great education in every single classroom and in every single school. Malden Public Schools believes all students deserve rigorous curriculum and instruction and strong relationships with peers and adults. Malden Public Schools believes in an inclusive school environment rather than creating exclusionary classroom settings. Malden Public Schools' focus is on individual student growth. Each student must be making academic and social emotional progress. The AEAP is doing just the opposite of what Malden Public Schools believes. It creates exclusionary classrooms by having one class per grade at one school for grades 4 through 8. Many talented students in Malden are being excluded because of the location alone, whereas a middle school honors program would be across all 5 K through 8 schools and be opening up possibilities for multiple students rather than a select few. I have also heard the concerns of parents who are in favor of keeping the program, who are worried that an accelerated program will no longer be available to their students, but I truly believe that a program across the district would fill that void. And I believe that a program is a middle school honors program at all 5 K through 8 schools. Thank you.
2 minutes exactly. Very good. Very good. No, you did it. You did it. All right. Who else wants to address? You want to toggle?
Nope, seeing none online
All
so
right.
far, so we'll take another in person.
Please, step right up. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for hearing the public. My name is Carrie Corcamalis. I live at 28 Cargill Street, which is partly in Malden and partly in Melrose. I have four now grown offspring, all 4 of whom were able to be part of the original Gifted and Talented program at the Linden School, and also participate in the Renaissance program when it was available. These were magnet theme programs, and they were excellent. The teachers were trained at the University of Connecticut, and this program was designed for students who truly need this kind of a program. These needs of accelerated or advanced students are special needs that deserve to be met, just like any other kind of special needs. It's a myth that students who are academically advanced will do just fine in any regular classroom. Their needs are very specialized, and they deserve to have those needs met. I can say that all 4 of mine thrived in the program. The youngest one is now in her first year as family medicine practitioner in Malden. So I can state that for all 4, it was transformative. And prior to that, all 4 displayed special needs because they needed this kind of a program. And we were very grateful that it was offered here in Malden. And I urge you to not only support it, but do so enthusiastically. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Amy Friedman. I live at 8 Marvin Street, and I'm here to speak regarding an agenda item that's, you're taking up an executive session, and that's the renewal of the Special Ed Director Pamela McDonald's contract. My son is in the PACE program at the BB School in the 5th grade. He's been there clear through kindergarten, and I can tell you that our experiences with the current Special Ed Director have been exemplary, far better than our experiences with the last Special Ed Director. Our current director has been here 3 years, and our family's experiences have been good. She's been responsive when we've needed to reach out to her, and when there's items that she takes the lead on, she reaches out to us. I would encourage you to renew her contract for an additional 3 years. It's important to have continuity in this position. It's important for our most vulnerable students to have that continuity, and for our families to know who they can reach out to and have a good relationship with that individual. I'd urge you to give Director McDonald a renewal of her contract and the tools that she needs to support our most vulnerable students. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the school committee can do so now. We only ask that you state your name and address for the record. If not, we're going to move on to the agenda. Please welcome. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Sofia Zdravtsev. I'm currently living at 30 Rich Street. I am in 6th grade, and I recently transferred from Fairway to the Malden School to be in the AEAP program. I think we should keep the program because even though there are flaws, that doesn't mean the right decision is to simply get rid of it completely. Instead, the school committee should build it up from where it currently is at, and we are ready to learn at a faster and deeper pace, and the current curriculum is not solving this issue, and taking away the AEAP program certainly won't. In my experience, going over the same topic again and again, followed by extended activities, is not advanced learning. In conclusion, the City Council should improve the AEAP program instead of removing it, and thank you for your time.
Well done.
Hi. I'm Anna Wokowitz, a current resident at 22 Olive Ave in Malden. And I have been in the AEAP program since 2nd grade, and I'm currently in 6th grade. I am here to explain to why advanced learning is important here in Malden. The AEAP program is so beneficial to students because it gives us a reason to learn and allows us to have a structure where we can rely on each other. The program gives us a challenge that motivates us to learn. Without this program, you would be taking away the community that we have built. In my experience of being in the program, I have realized that even though this program isn't perfect, and there are things about it, but there are things about it that are so unique and irreplaceable, such as the support that I give and receive from my peers. Thank you.
Well done. We should end with you. That's how you do it. Anybody else? Because we have a long agenda ahead. Okay, we're going to move on with this evening's agenda then. So why don't we, for the benefit of the people here, take up where we are with accelerated and enriched academic program? So let's do that, okay? Just 1 second, everyone. We want to get to the Okay, as usual, I misspoke. So we're first going to have, we have a group of teachers here as well as a group of students to discuss first the report card.
The awareness, national
Sleep awareness, right. All right, why don't you introduce it and I'll get out of the way. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Go right ahead, Superintendent.
Thank you. Thank you. So if you don't mind, Peter, Willie, please. This is an update from last year about the National Sleep Awareness Week. So we have students in here who did a study, so they will present to you where we are at this moment. So thank you for being here.
Welcome.
Thank you,
back.
thank you. So I don't know how much you guys want to hear about it. We were here in the spring.
Yep.
Presented and got unanimous approval for the Sleep Awareness Week, so we're very excited about that and rolling that out next week, I believe. And Erin was an 8th grade student and worked on this for a civics action project. Did a tremendous job with her classmates, adjusting to their goal. I invited a bunch of my current 8th graders here in the room. I might bribe them with some bonus points, but got them here to witness what their civics action projects can do. Erin, do you want to read what's up there?
National Sleep Awareness
Can we just have you come a little bit closer to the mic? Thank you.
National Sleep Awareness Week calls for people to recognize the importance of sleep as a crucial part of health and well-being. 8th grade civics students at Linden, with support from the teacher Peter Rowley, have created a daily survey to administer that week. The survey asks students to record what time they went to sleep, what time they woke up, how they felt that morning, and how they feel in the afternoon. Students will then compile and share those results in the survey with sleep averages, correlations of sleep to well-being, and suggestions on how to improve rest.
Good. All right, Superintendent?
Yeah, so the next steps are, there's a link to a survey that we are going to give to all the students and then come back to you at some point in June, and when we can actually celebrate the whole week of the sleep awareness. So that is going to be the next step, but I know you asked for an update about this presentation, so this is the update.
Excellent. Any questions of the members on this particular aspect? Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you. I'm just curious in regards to the survey, when you said the survey is going to be taken by all students in Linden, or just the 8th grade, or what's all students in the district?
The whole district from grade 6 through 12, it'll be open to. So we're going to ask homeroom teachers to roll that out and take a survey probably at the end of the day, because we're asking people how they feel at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then how they feel at the end of the day based off of how much sleep they got, anything prevented them from getting a good night's sleep, and just kind of monitoring the effects of a good night's sleep on their well-being.
Great. Oh, that's wonderful. Exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for not including the adults, because that would
Oh,
screw
no,
you
you're
up.
included. You're included. You're more than welcome.
All right. Let's go to Mr. Bernard.
I just wanted to go in and give you guys, my hearty encouragement, because I was happy to endorse this and to push it forward last year so it could get before us. And I think you guys are doing an awesome job. And I look forward to going and seeing the results. And if you ever need advice on how to go and do anything, just give me a call. I am at your service.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be following up in the next month or so with students reaching out to all of you about future proposals.
Great.
So thank you in advance.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your leadership, and thank you, students.
One more question, Superintendent, from Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I remember when this first came up, we all voted unanimously, and it's been a while, so I'm just trying to brush up a little bit. Are you going to be making some recommendations based on the survey results? Is that the implication?
That was not initially in the plans, but probably sharing the results. I think hopefully will speak for themselves on, I think that's the idea, just to kind of collect data and then share that data, and then who knows, maybe we can get an article written in the blue and gold on it, or some other kind of way of highlighting, you know, what the data has shown.
All right, thank you.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is going to be by a group of teachers, directors, and administrators, and this is something that, you know, with the new curriculum, with new following the standards, they discovered that for the last 20 years, we have not revised our K-4 report cards. So we have been measuring students on some things that we actually don't even do anymore. So a group of, well, they can actually explain what is going to happen. So I'm just going to let you, all amazing educators there, to actually talk about this wonderful project.
All right.
Okay, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you. Good evening. We are the K-4 Report Card Working Group. We'll go through and introduce ourselves and start with the teachers and then into the directors and administrators.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Millett. I teach at the Forestdale, and I teach integrated kindergarten.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Smith. I teach first grade at the BB.
I'm Tiffany Pye, and I teach second grade at the BB.
I'm Amanda Spain, and I also teach second grade at the BB. I'm Christina Cunningham. I teach third grade at the BB.
I'm Caitlin Rudensky. I teach the fourth grade at the BB.
Victoria Mulkern, Director of Literacy and Title I.
Kara Hovanesian, Director of STEM for grades K through 5.
Kate Greco, the Assistant Principal for K-4 at BB.
Carrie Ann Murphy, Principal at BB. So last year, we started seeking a new report card. We decided the current report card is from 20 years ago and does not accurately reflect the content that's being taught, and it's not Massachusetts standards aligned. For example, in third grade, it says metric and decimals to find perimeter, when that is in fact not the standard at all. It also has a scale that is unclear and focuses on effort rather than learning growth. The scale is a 1 through 6 system and combines effort and learning progress. So we decided that we wanted to better align the Massachusetts state standards and the new rigorous ELA and math curriculums. We wanted the new report card to serve as a tool to communicate student learning progress and growth to all caregivers and families. Currently, the report card is not translated, and we would like the report card to be accessible to all families in the district. We also wanted to create a consistent grading system that aligns with the standards-based teaching that we have in the classroom. So we created a scale that is focused on standards and learning growth rather than combining that effort and learning growth.
Yep, that one, next one.
One thing that was important to us when we were creating the new report card was making sure that it was vertically aligned across the grade levels, which means that you can see how, just like the Massachusetts standards, how what we're learning grows each year and gets progressively more challenging as students get older. For example, in kindergarten, we're grading on if they can compare numbers 1 through 10. In first grade, if they can compare numbers to 100. And then in second grade, if they can compare 3-digit numbers. And so we hope that parents will be able to see progress throughout the grade level as well as throughout their entire time in school.
So this was the report card timeline. As you can tell that there's a lot of BB representatives here because last February and April it started at an instructional leadership meeting, and we decided that this was a concern, and we identified and wrote a letter to Emily Spina, and then we created an action team of grade level teachers in the district, and we had the directors involved. So by May to July of 2022 in the summertime, we started planning, created a vision of what we wanted to see for the report card for the district. We focused on the objectives, analyzing samples from different districts, and creating an action plan as to what objectives we want to grade for Malden. And then in August to September, we shared the descriptors and the standards with the directors, and then we created a survey for families and for staff, so that way we can get their feedback as to what is going well, what should we improve on, and then we got input from everyone in the community, and we came back to look at our drafts from the summer and moved on into the fall. Sorry, we still have the other half of the timeline. We shared the slide.
So in October of 2022, we sent these questions out to caregivers and staff. We got 205 back from caregivers. We translated it across 7 languages, and we got 85 staff feedback responses back. And then we took those and looked at those as a team, and we started making our drafts in November of 2022 with that feedback. And we worked, like Kathleen mentioned, to align it from kindergarten all the way up to 4th grade, so we could see that vertical alignment. And then in December of 2022, we began preparing for this. We reviewed the mission and prepared for the presentation, which we thought would be in January, but we had more work to put in, so.
Then in January, we presented to the Malden Public Administrators, and we took their feedback and made some revisions to our drafts. In February, we held office hours for the educators at all the schools where we could get their feedback on how they liked the drafts and what we could improve on them. And then in March, we revised our drafts and prepared for this meeting. And our goal going forward is that in April and May, we can get the drafts into Aspen and work on that translation piece so that by the fall, we'll be able to streamline this process. And then throughout the summer, or in June, we're gonna have information sessions for the educators so that all teachers know what's coming in the fall and what standards each specific skill on the report card aligns to. And then over the summer, we'll finalize the cover sheet and plan dates for family sessions come the fall for open house.
So attached on the presentation, we have every grade K-4 exploratory, a cover sheet. And if you look at it, there are some different markings that you'll see. And when you do have time to look at each draft, you'll see that everything is vertically aligned, like consistent, cohesive. And we have a bunch of teachers, and I was representing like the special ed standpoint to make sure everything was kind of like taken care of. And in kindergarten, we have some different fine motor skills, some gross motor skills, different things like that. We also added a part called school citizenship, which is really important in this day and age. So we're open to take any questions. I know we kind of have a lot of information that we threw at you, but we thought it was kind of time to start something new and modern and hope that it's for the best.
Very good. I think I speak for the entire school committee when I ask, what are you doing after this? Because we have several other projects we'd like to give you based on this presentation. Very, very well done.
Our next project was going to be the progress reports.
Okay, all right. I should have known. All right, let's take some questions from the members. Questions of the school committee. Let's go to Ms. Spatafor first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few. First of all, thank you so much, because this really needed to be worked on and done. Especially at this grade level, the K-4 grade level. I think everybody knows, if you have older children, that we're kind of already doing this when it comes to a grading system in our older kids. But like, how do we know if somebody in first grade is meeting expectations? What are the expectations? So I am really impressed with the vertical alignment and how not only that'll help parents to showcase how a student is doing moving through grades, but I'm assuming it's really helpful to you as educators as well to see that when you have a new student in your classroom, you go back into Aspen and look at the previous year and be able to compare and build your curriculum to that student and their needs. And I don't know if this is a question for you guys, for the superintendent, in regards to translation, translating the report cards. Would that be based off of the language that's input into Aspen already for the family's needs? And would it be translated on, is Aspen translated? Like if I go on to X2 and look at my students' information,
So that is a feature that we're working on Aspen to translate everything according to the home language. So not just this, but any other features that the parents have access. So right now it's only in English, which prevents a lot of parents from accessing. So this would be tailored to not the report card, but anything that is entered there regarding the student should be translated. So it is going to be for the system, and it's going to be hopefully more than 7 languages.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, that is what we're working on.
So it's on our radar.
Yeah, it is already, yes. and
Okay.
It works, yeah.
The only question I have, and I like this portion to an extent, but as a special needs parent, I have some concern over the school citizenship area. There's some things that, like, I know my child would never get a high grades in demonstrating self-control because they're very impulsive. So I'm just curious if we can work on that section for our special needs students, because I just feel like, stays on task. Task management is like, and I'm not even talking about special needs kids, let's just talk about a kindergartner. Like,
Yes.
in 5 minutes, they're like going from, ooh, butterflies, to I had, pasta for dinner last night. So I'm just curious on the school citizenship section, how we can
Go about that.
Yeah.
So we had talked about this in one of our meetings. So a child can be excelling in all academics, but then not really be able to demonstrate self-control. So we had thought of putting something in Aspen as a little comment, and not like Johnny is a pleasure to have in class, like a generic comment. We would not do that. But we would put Suzanne is able to participate on the rug, and then give a little more detail and individualized in like a comment and a note section. And then it would also carry over if a student just arrived to our district, we were able to say like, student arrived on Monday, is still getting to know, because right now there's nothing to put for that either. It's just like NA. So we're trying to personalize it more to align with their IEP as well, with the comment section that we were thinking about adding. And then for the grading part, we had also taken out like the adverbs and stuff that were in there originally. There was like does this very well, so we took that all out so that it was more just generic, but also at the same time making sure that we were meeting each person's individualized plan, so that it wouldn't just say like M meets, and then you can be able to explain yourself and go into more detail. And then we are also thinking of at conference time, you're able to use the report card to look at it, so that you can talk about it. And then going for the next year's teachers, like you were saying, right now, some of us don't really look at like, oh, so-and-so got this in quarter 4 for the standard, and now we're gonna be able to pull it out of their CUME folder and look at it, if that kind of answers your question.
It does, and I think to an extent for our students that are on IEPs, we're already laying that out in the IEP or the progress reports when we're talking about task management, because we are saying, okay, this is what we're working towards. I know the BCBAs or the ABAs have a lot of input into percentages of, meets whatever expectations it is, 95% of the time, whatever. I think, again, still, if this is a report card, and I will say I have the first grade report card open, so I don't know if 4th grade is any different, but for our students that are reading, that are looking at their report card, that are seeing, demonstrate self-control, and it might not be flattering to them to have a negative connotation.
I can add on to that. So I think it's very important to have that info session at the end of the academic year with the with all teachers in the district, so that way they know that when you grade it, the report card is individualized for that student. So whatever goals that student has, then we have to grade to their goals. So if that's the goal and they are doing what is at their best capability, then we're grading on that individual student. And so that way all the teachers know that this is the standard, or this is how we are going to grade. It's not, oh, comparing student A to student B, it's individualized for that student. So that info session.
Bingo. And I like the thought of even, and I know you guys already had your working group, so you can take my suggestion and throw it out the window. But having a student even like have their own goal setting at the beginning of the year, like what do I want to get out of, maybe kindergarten's going to be like, I want to make more friends. But that would be awesome to see at the end of the year, like, Susie excelled. She became like a leader in the classroom. to see students setting their own goals and that part of like that school citizenship area, so.
And I think what you're speaking to, like the progress, is also something that, maybe they got, striving towards or progressing towards, and then by the end of the year, they are meeting it. I think for our EL students, it's gonna be something similar, where like participation is going to look different. And so like there may be that note, like there is now, like, grades reflect the student's IEP, or grades reflect the, progress of learning the English language or something like that. So it's a note that like, we know that this is happening simultaneously with the learning, and
Yep.
it's taken into consideration when we're putting these grades or these letters on the report card.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Job, I just want to say, this is fantastic. I know, in having conversations years ago with Ms. Spain, about report cards, I think you were very passionate, like, we need a new report card. So I'm thoroughly impressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spatafor. Mr. Weldy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to follow up on Tiffany, what you had just said. So does that mean that the school citizenship section is going to look different for any kid on an IEP? Like their IEP goals are going to be put into that section so that they're, or I guess like kind of like Kara said, so every kid who's getting some kind of services might have different criteria under that section.
So in the school citizenship, there's everything that's outlined, like you're grading on everything, how well they're working independently, how well they're working with each other. But if there's something that's specific that they're working on for their IEP goals, we'll take that into consideration as their teacher to know, is he demonstrating this at his best capability, and then grade based off that.
And then if you have more flexibility in the comments,
Yes,
you can
to
add things
explain
in.
why you gave that grade.
It's really cool. Thank you. I would say, I'm going to echo Ms. Spatafor's comments and say thank you for getting this across the finish line. Because a lot of times you start a project and it doesn't get across the finish line. And, I feel like the most recent was when Pete Dolan did this with Kelly Chase and tried to revamp the K-4 report card. And it's been a little while, and I think this is really cool to see it done, to see it vetted, and to see it come to fruition. And I'm glad, my only wondering, and I think this will come out in the next couple of months as you do the tours, was the 205 caregiver responses also mostly from BB families? Because it seems very BB-centric. And so part of me just wants to make sure that the staff in the other buildings and the parent have a chance to sort of weigh in a little bit.
We made sure that if, like, on the graph, we can see which school did or did not respond, and we had our administrators make sure they reached out to have their staff and families to do it. So I think, like, as we get further, and if we want to do another survey, we'll hopefully get more people in the district as well.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Weldy. Anybody else? Just a few questions from the chair. Did you look at other districts as well? Was that stated in there, or I hope I'm not repeating? It was, okay. May pretend I didn't ask that question. Why now? You said it hasn't been changed in 20 years. Is it just because we have a perfect match here between all of you? Like, what prompted now?
I think some of us have been on the ILT team at BB for 2 years, and then we're like, okay, we really don't like grading this as an educator. And so we had the conversation with Dr. Murphy and Ms. Greco, and they're like, if you want change, then write a letter, send it to central office, and see what happens. And that's what we did.
Unbelievable.
I'll add that simultaneously, Victoria and I brought it up at a director's meeting that with the new curriculum, well, math, I was bringing it up obviously for math, but the assessments are so standards-based that the teachers are grading them and trying to fit them into this like percentage effort system that doesn't work. So I brought up, like, we really need to look at the report card because it's making our educators' job harder to work with these new high-quality curricular materials. So Emily was like, oh, well, these BB teachers would love to work with you, and now here we are a year later, so.
Great. All right, well, I guess we'll entertain a motion to adjourn, because it's all downhill from here. Well, thank you very, very much, truly. One of the best I've seen in my time as chair.
So I do want to, if you don't mind,
Please.
thank Dr. Murphy and Ms. Greco for the leadership in taking this on. And it was going to happen in every single school next year. we are creating alignment, coherence, and we are a district standard base. So we want to make sure that everything reflects what we are doing. And yes, thank you so much for your work. Yay!
Great. Excellent. So Superintendent, now, do you want to take up AEAP? Because I know there's some other
Yep,
people here for that.
Yes, that's fine, yes.
All right, so for everybody in the audience, we're going to jump to AEAP right now. Let's see if we can figure out where to go. Do you have to jump at them? Yeah. Okay. Just give us 1 second, okay? We have to get to the slide.
We were going to give an update because they talk about the curriculum, about the curriculum, what differentiated this. So I can just talk about the AEP without the curriculum. Okay. Go to honor rolls, please. Honor roll pathways. It is a slide.
Slide 19. 19.
Okay. So I am going to invite Dr. Diaz to please come. We are going to start with what is the honors pathways and also the honor roll. While he's making his way here, do you mind to the next slide? I have to say that we are very proud of all our students in the Malden Public Schools. For quarter 2, we have 1,397 students making honor roll. That is between high honors and honors. So we see all our students thriving in our schools. So we just want to make sure that we highlight that. So Dr. Diaz, if you want to talk about our pathway.
Sure. Thank you. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we always want to do is recognize students when they're successful, not only at grade level, but above grade level as well. We know we have a spectrum of students, or I don't want to use the word bell curve, but we have kids that are going to behave and learn things faster than others, and some that struggle. And we have mechanisms embedded within our school and classroom to help those students so that they can make sure that they get the attention that they deserve. But one of the things that we struggle with sometimes is being able to really focus and give kids that grasp the material quickly access to higher level material. So what we're looking at is creating a pathway to allow them to get that, and a recognition for their achievement in that pathway. We're not talking about trying to create a program per se. We're talking about creating an opportunity within the general classroom. Next slide, please. That would help us understand what they know and how they can be recognized for that success. So to participate, we're looking at students that are in classes right now, middle school level, only grades 6 through 8, and they have to have grades of 89 or higher in their standard classroom as it currently exists. And those students, if they chose to participate and their teachers suggest that they participate, would end up getting additional material. Not additional just added on, but material that would allow them to, both in the class and sometimes independently and sometimes under the direction of a teacher, work and do some higher level, deeper learning while still maintaining the pace that they have with the kids in the classroom. In addition to this, we would ask that students participate and complete some community service to help, again, enrich their experience because of, we want to be able to recognize this honor, if you will. And I liken it being, like at the high school, we have National Honor Society, so this is more along the lines of you get the academic component and a little bit of a civic service component as well merged together. So next slide, please. So now one of the questions is always, do we want to keep the kids, have them be separated or not be separated? And in conversations and with colleagues and also looking at what the needs of our students are, we feel very strongly that we want them to remain with their classes for the reason you see here. It allows them to be exposed to different perspectives, improves their social skills, gives them real-world preparation, and I don't like the word real world because for students, the classroom is their real world, but it's about giving them an opportunity to see people that look, sound, think differently than them. So we want to have it represent society, and we're a public school. We take everybody that shows up at our doors, we all know, and we want our classes to reflect that. And also increased engagement, because again, what I found professionally is sometimes those kids that are most academically focused are least likely to put themselves out there and to volunteer information and share what they know because they're afraid of being judged. Whereas if you have a group of students that are very mixed and different abilities. Sometimes you have some kids that are far more gregarious or engaging, but they might struggle with academically. So it benefits everybody to keep them together. Next slide, please. So just a quick little timeline about how we got here. So what we're doing right now is we're piloting it. We have 6 teachers that have been involved since the summer. They created materials to be implemented in the classroom, and they are just starting to do that right now to see how it works and work the kinks out. I had 3 more teachers actually last week asked to participate, and so I'm going to be meeting with them tomorrow, actually, so to try and get them to understand and see how it works, so that next year we can really do this in all 6 through 8 classes. Again, we're only talking the 4 content areas: English, social studies, science, and math, because, well, that's about the bandwidth I can handle. So, but the idea is to try and give them these opportunities, and if they can participate in those 4 areas, at the end of the year, next year, they would get honors on their transcript, so it would be recognized that they're there. The idea is, this year, the pilot teachers would, for those students that participated, they would get a certificate just of appreciation for what they did to help us learn ourselves. We're a learning institute. We need to practice. Sequentially, next year, what we're talking about is first quarter, students are just in their classes all together, and then at the end of first quarter, when grades come out, teachers would reach out to those students who got 89 or higher and say, you're eligible for participation in this honors pathway. I would urge teachers to collaborate a little bit about this in their team, because if it's like AP, you know, if at the high school level, advanced placement at the high school level is like a college level course. You don't want to have a kid take 4 AP courses simultaneously because it's a lot. Yeah, like, it's a lot. But taking 1 or 2 might be okay. And this might be true for this honors pathway as well. It's going to depend on the student. So, and then starting in second quarter, they would start to do that deeper learning while staying in their class with everybody else. They would start working on community service coordinated through their principal. We want to make sure that the community service is not a burden, but it's something that they want to do to help make them feel like they are giving back in addition to learning from what's happening. So, and at the end of the year, they would, as I said, they would get honors on their transcript. So that's where we are, that's where we've been, that's where we hope to be. So, thank you.
And
Thank you.
I just want to make clear, this is not replacing any other program. This is actually the philosophy of the district for every single school. So this has been on the works when we started, because this is what we believe. So it's not replacing anything. This is actually the signature of the district.
Okay.
Thank you. Actually, a very good point. This is, every student in the district will be eligible for this. It isn't just for kids that are at, you know, one school or another school. This is for every student. Doesn't matter if they're in a particular program, because some students that might be in a separate program, they're there because of behavioral issues or of learning disabilities. It doesn't mean they still can't be successful in this particular opportunity. For me, it's about the all. All means all.
Thank you.
Moving forward with the report is that there is a lot of misunderstanding about curriculum and instruction. So we invited Victoria Mulkern and Cara to present the math and ELA, and Dr. Dias too, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about the curriculum, so a lot of assumptions. So I want to make sure we are very clear about when we say extensions, rigor, and what is actually curriculum. And once again, for many years, especially for ELA, almost for 20 years, we didn't have a new curriculum. So we are making some milestones in here in this district. So go ahead, please. Thank you.
Okay, so in the past few weeks, months, year almost to date, we've done a lot of research on kind of defining our own definitions of gifted, enrichment, extension, because I think a lot of those terms have been kind of jumbled up in some of our discussions. So in some of our research on, you know, what qualifies as gifted, we've seen that there really is no consensus on what qualifies as gifted, what a gifted program looks like, what gifted education looks like. And we have seen, you know, a lot of studies that have come out that have stated, you know, the inequities within some gifted education programs, especially for our students of color and our students from, you know, historically underserved backgrounds. Next slide, please. Then we have extension on top of enrichment. And we really talked a lot about how we've recently adopted, for the first time, K-8 with ELA literacy and K-10 with math, that we have these enriching, high-quality core curriculums. They're not like the curriculums that we used to have. They're enriching in and of their own. I can only speak for ELA, but students are getting these exciting, engaging, enriching experiences in the arts, in the social studies, in the sciences, in addition to learning how to read and how to comprehend their text. And the same holds true for math, science. But on top of that, we know that an enriching curriculum is not sufficient for all students. Some students need extension on top of that. So everyone gets enrichment, and then there's some extension on top of that. And that's what we're, here to show kind of where some of those enrichment opportunities are within our various curricula. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
And so again, when we're grounding ourselves in framework, when we ground ourselves to, again, every student, every classroom, every day, we hold back on our long-term partnership with Unbound Ed, who believes in anti-racist, equitable instruction through what they call GLEAM, which is grade level, engaging, affirming, and meaningful instruction. And we believe that these are the tenets that every student is guaranteed a right to every day with every classroom they walk into. And we're really excited to welcome Unbound Ed back into our district next week for what they call equitable instructional walkthroughs to support us in making sure every student is getting that here. In addition just to the hardcore academics, we believe that in every classroom, students should also be practicing and working on these soft skills that we need for success in life. And those skills include collaborating with but also different types of peers and learners too, because that's what we experience in the real world. We're never always with people who think like us, who have the same pathway as us, so we need to have those opportunities early in life. It's also being able to rationalize the perspectives of others, to be able to perspective take and to understand where the other is coming from, as well as critiquing others, problem solving, making applications to real life situations in both ELA and the STEM fields. Next slide, please.
So grade level is pretty much the reason why we've adopted these curricula, right? We want to make sure that all of our students are having access to grade level curriculum. It's like the foundation of the Unbound Ed, GLEAM frameworks, and why it's so important to teach grade level curricula and not something below or something above is if you're replacing the grade level with non-grade level, the students are missing something, right? So even if we're giving them, we're gonna have them do 3-digit multiplication instead, well, they're missing the language and the representations of the grade level that they're on. Because especially, and we'll speak just for math, the standards are not just about doing math, it's how they're doing it. And the ways in which they're doing it are very particular to the grade level. The tape diagrams and the number bonds and the number sentences. And so if they're working on something that isn't that grade level material, they're missing those. And those are gonna be built upon in the years to come. So if they're only familiar with that one way of solving problems and they can do it quickly, they may struggle in the next grade level because they weren't exposed to different ways of doing it and given the opportunities to think with their peers. So standards of mathematical practice 4 and 5, model with mathematics and use appropriate tools strategically. Those things can't happen at grade level if you're doing work outside of the grade level. And then one of my favorite ones is SMP3, construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. That's what's so powerful about, I'll speak for Eureka Math, but Open Up as well, is that these students have the opportunity to go back and forth with each other about not necessarily who's right or wrong, but well, I did it like this, and well, you did it this way, and here's where it overlaps, and that's so cool, we came up with the same thing, or we didn't, and why not? And those conversations are invaluable. And again, they just carry on to the next grade level. Next slide. I'm not sure if that's me. No, that's you.
And we also see that, even students are overall or in a composite are performing maybe above grade level in math, ELA, history, science. a number of us, as we all do, we still have gaps too. We have unfinished learning too, especially since, the COVID years. And so this is an example of a report we can pull from iReady that shows, it's called the Math Standards Mastery Report, and it can show a student and every standard that they're mastering. So the green check mark is yes, they've mastered that standard. The gray is no, they have not yet. And so we can look back, multiple grade levels back, as well as forward. So we can see the standards that maybe a student, this is an example in 4th grade, yeah, a student is mastering some standards in 4th grade, but that student still has some standards to master in 4th grade. So even though this student might be performing overall at a 6th, 7th grade level, there's still standards they still need to master before they're fully have full mastery of the grade level. And even more so when you dig a little farther, some students even have unfinished learning in grade levels below, even though they're performing at a composite higher than grade level. So those, little gaps, we want to make sure we're going to address those gaps sooner rather than later so that it doesn't hit them later down the road in upper middle school, in high school, in college. So, every day is urgency, no matter who we're dealing with. Now, no matter if they're a student who's 3 grade levels below or 3 grade levels above, we need to address those unfinished gaps. And these are some of the differentiated support options for high-performing students for all 3 of our curricula. For CKLA, which is our K through 5 curriculum, every lesson has options on the sidebar of the teacher manual. They're called challenge options that a teacher can implement with a certain student, a certain group of students that connects directly to the lesson and to the objectives that they're doing with the whole class. But it can be something that they can do in a small group, a teacher-led table with students, or kind of give as an independent assignment to a student. We also bought culturally responsive trade books for every unit in every grade, K through 5, so those are wonderful opportunities to have students do research projects on. Some of them are biographies of really influential people that they could do a PowerPoint on, write an essay on, kind of jumping off points. There are novel studies, 2 per each grade level, 3 to 5, where students could get into a literature circle, again, do a report on that. In addition, in the student reader, which students have for each unit, there are enrichment passages at the end, which kind of have a higher lexile level and also have questions that go along with it that students can use.
In both Eureka and Eureka Math Squared, the teacher manual provides opportunities for differentiation for students who need support, for students who need language support, for students who need a challenge, and also promoting the standards of mathematical practice. So it's not necessarily like one of each per lesson. Sometimes you'll see, multiple language supports in one lesson or multiple ways to challenge, or you may have one lesson where there isn't a differentiation box on the side for challenge, but they're basically placed appropriately throughout all of the modules, and the same goes with Eureka Math Squared. So they are providing opportunities for differentiation for all learning levels, let's say.
And in the Amplify ELA, which is our grade 6 through 8 curriculum, again, we have challenge differentiation support. There'll be a slide coming up that shows in the ELA platform, teachers are able to actually assign students to 6 different areas, and one includes challenge as well as supporting, that students can receive writing responses, vocabulary activities that are adjusted to their particular need. Additionally, there's a vocabulary app that's adaptive, so students, depending on how they perform the past few days, they'll see vocabulary words that they can have success with and ultimately work their way up. And as well as students who have success with it keep getting higher order questions for the vocabulary app. There's also a wonderful Amplify library that has over 700 ebooks that students can read, get engaged with. It can connect to the unit of study they're working on, or just for pleasure, because we want all students to have the love of reading. Additionally, there's archives within that Amplify library, so students can engage in archival projects and see a collection of images, media, articles written, and kind of get into a project on that.
Similarly, Open Up Resources, the middle school math curriculum that we are implementing this year for the first time, does provide opportunities for teachers to give students and they use the phrase, "Are you ready for more?" And it is both beyond what the students would be learning in the class and deeper in what they're doing. So they get the benefit of both. So it's not just rote, it's not worksheets where the kids just do the same thing over and over again or do more of them. It is actual deeper learning and more thoughtfully created.
And this applies just for ELA only with Lexile level, but these are really on your right is kind of the Lexile stretch band. So really what we want to see them achieve by the end of the grade level they're currently at, reading text in this range. And we can see that just some of the selection of text through each grade level, they fall really within these ranges. And that's not taking into account the qualitative features of some of these texts, the richness of the qualitative and understanding, such as Don Quixote, The House on Mango Street, the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. Like, these are really rich, rigorous texts that take a lot of time to decompose, to talk about, in addition to just the quantitative Lexile level. Next slide, please. So we just had a few slides for an example of what a challenge activity for each grade level would be with literacy, math. So for example, in grade 4, this is the reader that each student has. Every student in the class, reads the passage, either a whole group, in partners, independently, depending on the classroom composition. But then at the end of each reader, there are enrichment passages, which again have a higher Lexile level than the regular passages in the text, still connected to the unit topic. So for example, this is a 4th grade unit, they're, on geology. And so this is one of the enrichment passages here. And we can see how dense, even from that screenshot, the passage is. And then there's an activity page sheet that students can do, in addition, where they're citing the text and really making some higher order questioning. Next slide, please. So for 5th grade, this is again, on your left is an example of one of the reader pages with talking about the Reformation, which is challenging in and of itself. But then on the sidebar of the teacher edition passage pages, there are challenge opportunities. So as we can see, some of these are compare and contrast the terms geo and helio. So you could get students in a discussion in a Socratic seminar about this. And it's directly correlated to what they're learning about in the unit, but it's another challenge. Or have students write about it, write a counter argument. Writing piece about it. Next slide, please. So in the ELA grade 6 through 8 curriculum, as I mentioned before, teachers are able on the platform to identify students, and they can change them up. It's never set in stone, but based on the levels of differentiation they need for writing, for response pages. So we have challenge, we have a slide level for ELL students. We have a slide for students who need substantial support versus light support. And so as we can kind of see on the next slide, which is a 6th grade example, these are this is the same assignment in the same lesson on a unit on the Greeks, but showing 3 different levels of support and the richness that can come from that. So as we can see in the moderate substantial support button, students are asked to kind of answer a multiple choice question with a specific quote from the passage and are then given sentence starters to help them write about it. So they're really given a lot more support. The core support is they're asked to really describe a character and what he might do to a specific part in the next section of the text, when the challenge is not just describing 1 but 2 characters and thinking what might happen to them before. So it is a lot more thinking, a lot more kind of higher order reasoning behind that. Next slide, please. In addition, the 7th grade example I picked out is one of those archives projects that students could do. And our 7th graders just finished the Raisin in the Sun unit, and this is Women's History Month, so the 2 together kind of combine to make this a wonderful unit. It's African American Women Writers Archive, and so it has images from the 1950s, it has excerpts from autobiographies, it has some media, and then it's always geared by some research questions. So these are questions students could discuss as they're working in partners, and they could also do some writing on it, write a little research project on it. These are some of the opportunities available. And next slide, please. Lastly, in grade 8, again, it's similar to what we saw in grade 6.
But as in grade 8, we're gearing our students up for high school. We can see in the substantial support section, it's a kind of step-by-step process with identifying a quote, with then giving sentence starters and writing. The core support is kind of working on your argument for a point. But then the challenge is not just kind of crafting an argument, but crafting a counter argument to that. So you have to take 2 points, and that's a really important perspective taking that we want all students to have as they gear up to high school.
So I just did a couple. So we've got, this is grade 1, we have the different levels of support. There's EL supports throughout for Eureka Math Squared, which is one of the reasons why we went with it. You can see that they show like the pictures of the objects that they're talking about. They'll show like longer and shorter, and they'll kind of like show what they are in a picture. The differentiation support box is an example for something that might be in a teacher's manual. They'll make a suggestion about how the teacher can provide additional support for the student, and then the same thing for the challenge. So it's still a differentiation, but it's with a challenge, right? If you didn't have a number path, what would you do? You know, how far can the number path go? Are all the numbers on the number path are the ones that we see? That's one of my favorite things with students. Like, there's an infinite number of numbers on there, even though it's a closed section. It's crazy. But so it's a lot of the line of questioning that the teacher is going to use in the math classes that's really going to provide that challenge. So what our job is to, you know, give them the PD to help them figure out how they're going to do that. We're giving a word problem PD this Friday for grades 3 through 5 to kind of help provide that support. A lot of people shy away from word problems, teachers and students. So how can we really push our students to go deeply into them? And how can we push ourselves, say, okay, yeah, this is hard to teach, but like, let's do it. This is the fun stuff. So there's some, this is regular Eureka, grade 4, very similar. You see not as much color and pretty pictures, but kind of the same process with the notes for differentiation and multiple means of engagement on the sides of the teacher manual. So those are all screenshotted and open up.
And similarly, Open Up does the same for the middle school. So it does very specific supports for English language learners, the support for students with disabilities, and again, as I mentioned earlier, the quote, "Are you ready for more?" And it is aligned with there, but sometimes it steps outside, but frequently it just goes deeper and provides opportunities similar to what Victoria mentioned with ELA, where instead of looking at one thing, you're trying to compare and contrast. Because as Kara said, it isn't just about the mathematical actions, it's about the practices that go into it, the modeling, the discussing, the depth of it isn't just simply the old time, you know, compute type of situation. So, next slide, please.
And then lastly, when we're talking about all students, we want to make sure we're also talking about all kind of the scope of the spectrum here. So what support the curriculum provides for students who may need a little extra help, such as our English learners and our students with disabilities or exceptionalities, as we like to say. We did purchase the Language Studio, which is a supplemental program to CKLA for all ESL teachers in the district to kind of support students in building that background knowledge before they get the lesson with their whole class from the ESL teacher. All those readers that I showed before, those are also available as ebooks and audiobooks, so students can listen to them if they're still struggling with decoding the actual text in them, so they're still getting the knowledge. We do have image cards in grades K to 3 to help us. The slideshows that the teachers use are editable, so teachers are able to incorporate, sentence starters in them, incorporate more visuals, videos, and so forth. And it also comes along with a fluency supplement, an intervention toolkit, and an assessment and remediation guide, which we are just, really just getting to the surface of in our first year, but we look forward to exploring that even more.
And for math, so mentioned again, the differentiation supports that are offered on the side at the margins of the teacher's manual that will link up exactly with different parts of the lesson. And then Eureka Math Squared has increased visuals, sentence frames, all kinds of things like that, multiple means of engagement. So kind of trying to help invite our English language learners into those conversations that are so powerful. So, if there's vocab that might need to be reviewed prior to starting an application problem or something like that, it'll remind teachers to do that, because we really want all of our students engaging in these rigorous activities. And so that's kind of the key, is what supports do our EL students need to be able to engage, and our students with exceptionalities as well. As we all know, there are multiple ways to show understanding. And so the teacher's manual will have kind of some of those, okay, what tools can we use here to make sure that we're inviting all of those ways into the conversation.
And for our middle school, we kind of viewed that screenshot of the 6 differentiations. Additionally, though, there is audio and ebook versions of most books in the library. We have sentence starters for many of the writing prompts if we choose that for students. And there are also supplemental lessons that teachers can use to fill in unfinished learning in grammar, in morphology, in vocabulary, and so forth.
And again, open up at the middle school level well, you've heard it all. It's very similar. So, but it starts with big, it goes with course, then to the unit, to the lesson, to the individual activity that takes place. In each one of those steps, there's something that's clarified for our students with disabilities as well as our EL student population. So they have multiple entry points into the curriculum, because part of the challenge is always going to be not only the students we have in September, but those that come in October and November and December. So, and as we all know, there has been, we are a magnet, and I see that as a strength. It's a testimony to the quality of both Malden as a city and as a school system. So we selected this curriculum because of these things, in addition to being highly rigorous and quality. So, next slide, please.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So why we spend so much time talking about the curriculum, because the curriculum in any district is the roadmap. Without the curriculum, everybody would be teaching many different things. There's no way to measure student growth and not to be able to see where are the gaps. So therefore, once again, we are a standard-based district, and this is the curriculum. It's very robust. Teaching is magical, so we can have the most amazing curriculum, but if we don't make it feel like it's amazing, it won't be amazing. So I trust all the teachers in the Malden Public Schools to embrace it, love it, because teaching, once again, is magical to be with the students. Teachers are allowed to do projects with the students, field trips, so many things that happen in here. But I want to make sure that when people talk about the curriculum, it's like it's not going to support the students who are performing at a high level, and actually it can really push students. But that's not what I just want to make sure that people understand the curriculum a little bit deeper. Then I'm just going to go over to request that was made by Mr. Gray and also by Mr. Bernard about how you promoted this program. How do families have heard about the program? Have you done anything to really promote the program? And so we just gathered a summary of information here. So since March 17, 2022, we brought this program to light, even though it's under the superintendent's review, but it was brought up to school committee prior to my entry. And it has been on the website. It has been in the registration booklet. We had webinars just for the program. We have several in-person Zoom meetings, telephone calls. So there are a lot of things that happened. There was a FOIA request where we saw that in March 17, 2022, there were only 1,848 emails under the gifted subject and 13,091 under the program. And then there were other things. So as of today, I just had to say that the way that we have promoted this program, it has been in the my report, monthly report, since March of 2022. So this is the only program that has been highlighted in every single meeting. So we have been highlighting this. And at the same time, we wanted to get a curriculum, I should say, for math and ELA to make sure that we were going to address the issues of students who are performing on a higher level. So you have it in there, the emails that just from my emails I have been receiving and getting and responding to the AAP. So this is just a request about how much we have promoted and how much time we had invested in here. I just had to say that we have been learning a lot about the program. We are committed to educate all our students. So I just want to make sure that you know that we have promoted the program. We believe in actually making sure every single student is going to get the right education, and we believe in all. So if you hear that in our conversation, but you can see that we have spent some time and hours in the program, which has been a pleasure because we learn a lot from each other and also with new settings. And I know that last time I made a recommendation, I stand by that recommendation. And just to say that still believe, and we believe, every school, every classroom, every day. We do believe that all students have the right to a great education in every single school and in every single classroom. So you can read it, I'm not going to read it again, but that's where I believe that we actually can do the difference in the classroom by having a high rigorous curriculum with high quality materials, with professional development for teachers, and if we need to offer something else to the students, we will do it in an individualized plan. You have heard us talking about progress, monitoring the students, student growth, and we want to make sure there's clear alignment, coherence, and accountability for teaching and also for learning. So I just want to say that. My proposal was made last time, so I just go back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Superintendent. Let's open it up to questions, comments, queries, concerns. Let's start with Mr. Gray, and then we're going to go to Ms. Spatafora, and then over to Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm seeing this for the first time, and as the presentation was being made, I'm trying to understand some of the terminology and what it means, and it may be helpful to have some of it clarified. One thing that was being touched upon a lot was the term deeper. And at first I tried to understand, what does that mean? And I think they tried to explain it during the presentation. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the intent seems to be to, I'm trying not to use negative terminology, contain the children within the grade level, teach all the children to grade level, but if some of the children are high performers within the grade, say you have a fourth grader who's a high performer, teach them something deeper within the fourth grade lesson plan. Am I interpreting that right?
Let's find out.
Yeah, we have Victoria, but at the same time, that is the goal. The primary goal is to make sure everybody's at grade level. That means at all the standards they have mastered up to grade level. And if we have students who are demonstrating above grade level, that means they have mastered all the skills up to grade level. There are other opportunities by creating a plan. That child needs to go to, if it's in fourth grade math, needs to go to a fifth grade math without changing the grade itself, because we cannot promote by grade level. That's an opportunity that we have.
Let me jump in here. I didn't hear that in the presentation, that extra piece.
No.
I was trying to find out what's the deeper part, and the deeper part was explained as teaching more within the grade level.
Hold one second, Mr. Gray. Do you want to comment? Stand by one second. Take it away.
So I apologize if that wasn't clear either, and I think we also use deeper, but we use it, in similar ways in math and ELA, even though deeper might look different. But when we think of deeper learning, we think of how our standards, even though they're grade level standards, they're so rich and they're so complex that, a lesson might be hitting upon one portion of that standard, but yet there might be another portion that we could add on to that so that students can do both or three kind of portions of that same standard within a lesson as well. And even just adding more kind of engaging, as we kind of showed with my 8th grade example, a counter argument. That's still in that 8th grade standard, but that's at the high point of that, and that's not necessarily expected just for that that assignment or that lesson, if you want to add to the math.
Yeah, I just asked, can I read a standard, but we might be here all night, you know, I get going. But an example that I would give you in like a 4th grade math class, I was in one the other day. The teacher read a number out loud, it was 6 digits. They said, okay, give it to me in 100,000s and ones. Okay, if I was gonna go deeper because all the kids got it, I would say, give it to me in 10s and 10,000s. Give it to me in 10s and 10,000s and tenths. Like, you're still in 4th grade, you're still decomposing the number, but now I'm going into pieces of the number and into place values that the regular lesson doesn't call for, because I know that the students are ready for that challenge. So I'm still in that standard, doing that same activity, which is decompose a number, but it's so, as Ms. Mulkern said, it's so rich that like the teacher can go as deep as the students are ready for.
Part of why I asked this is because in a different part of the presentation, it specifically mentions teaching the children above and below grade level. But then that terminology gets dropped and it becomes deeper. You know, so you're using two different sets of terminology, it feels like. You know, I'm trying to understand, what does above grade level mean versus deeper, which seems to be an advanced part of the same grade level?
I think that you can be working above grade level, and I could do math above grade level for, you know, when I was in elementary school, but that doesn't mean that I can't go deeper into my grade level standards. Just because I can multiply 2-digit numbers or 3-digit numbers when I'm in 3rd grade, I can still take my number bond, and instead of doing it into 3 pieces, I can do it into 4 pieces, and I can do it into 4 pieces when 2 of them are a whole number and 2 of them are a fraction, if that's what my teacher asked, right? So I might have mathematical skills that are above grade level, but still be able to go deeper into my own grade level standards. So I think it's possible to do both from my vantage point.
Well, I have no mathematical skills myself, but I'm just, it's still not clear in the paperwork. It's just.
All right, Mr. Gray, let's
it's like
hold that. Do you
yeah.
want to hold that? Because we have
Yeah, okay.
4 of the speakers. So let's come back to him, Superintendent, or hopefully the other speakers. Mr. Gray might help get us to where we need to go to. So Ms. Spatafora, then Mr. Bernard, and then Ms. Rose Zyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to rewind earlier, and I want you guys to come back. So this one's going to be directed towards Dr. Diaz, but probably to the superintendent as well. In regards to the middle school honors program.
Pathway.
What's that?
I'm trying to avoid calling it a program.
Model.
It's a pathway.
Good, I like that, that works.
So the middle school honors model, and I'm so happy that I have a high school student sitting here next to me because she was able to clarify something for me, and that was going into your freshman year, you're unable to take an advanced placement class. Would that change for honor students coming out of 8th grade?
So the goal is the vertical horizontal, right? It's how do we get the students in the transcript with honors, so when they go to the high school, they're already identified as honor students. That means opening more opportunities within 10th grade for AP, because right now it's 11 and 12. So that is the trajectory. One of the things that's why we focus so much on the standard-based grade level standards, because if you have a very strong background, writing, reading, everything, then you will be very successful. So you can see the trajectory of the honors is going straight to high school, and in 2nd year, as 10th graders have the opportunity to start trying AP courses. Because if you're ready, you're ready.
Okay, so we're really looking at is mastering that honor. So you're an honor student in 8th grade, you enter your freshman year, and you're diving deeper into these standards. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I will say, as somebody that works in finance, I was terrible in math in school, and to see you get so excited about, it was S&P 3, and I was like, oh my gosh, I wish Carol was my teacher when I was in school, because I think I would have understood. So what happens if a student can't master a standard, just like you've worked, you've focused on this, that you've put in a lot of effort, and they're just not grasping. Do you move on?
So the beauty of both curricula that we have is that it keeps returning to it. And so that's something that I think is still an adjustment for our educators. For example, second grade does addition with regrouping, and the third grade teachers are like, oh, we need to review it at the beginning of the year because, you know, they don't all have it. And I'm like, do you know how many times it comes up again in your curriculum? You do perimeter, which is adding the distance around the outside of a shape. So guess what they get to do? Addition with regrouping while you're teaching a third grade standard. So if we were to stop and reteach second grade again, right? I go back to my slide. What are we missing? Well, we're going to miss the last unit or the last module because we spent time teaching second grade again. So these curricula are designed to bring it all back and continue to work on it throughout. So the answer is always going to be they haven't mastered it yet because there's going to be numerous opportunities as we continue on K to 5. And I wish I was your child's math teacher, your math teacher as well. I always say that to
This
people.
curricula could have been exceptionally helpful as we were coming out of the pandemic and when we were focusing or diving into the regression of students and who lost what or who maybe even gained.
So
because they
had
were
it.
really strong independent learners at home.
Right. And we had it, but I think the educators weren't comfortable with it yet. So we had it actually during COVID and during remote learning, but just being able to teach it on a screen, the educators themselves weren't able to dive into all these models. And so I think, you know, you're seeing now like teachers in 3, 4, and 5 are very comfortable with it and like knowing how to differentiate and all that. And in K2, obviously they're in the first year of Eureka Math Squared, but it has done a lot of that, creating comfort for them because a lot of the scaffolds are embedded now. So I think we're just going to continue to see the data improving.
Yeah, I'm, like I said, to see the excitement, I'm excited over it
And I will just say for ELA, it's similar to math in how we don't actually expect mastery over time with some of the knowledge concepts they'll be talking about because it spirals throughout the grades. So even first grade, they're working on an astronomy unit right now, and I'm just getting the books ready for third grade for their astronomy unit in third grade. And so, you know, in fourth grade, they're talking about geology, so some of that stuff is coming back. So, and that's been new for a lot of us, myself included, but a lot of our educators but they don't know these terms yet. They don't know, it's okay. It cycles back too. So
that's what I wanted to hear was it's okay because because each student learns at their own pace. They might not be at the same pace of their peers. They may be far more ahead, below, I don't want to use below, but just not everybody learns the same.
exactly.
So I like that, it's okay, we're gonna hit it somewhere else, and they may grasp it in a different model or a different explanation. It may come easier or quicker in a different book or whatever it may be. And then the last question, I don't even think it's really a question, I just wanna say how impressed I was on the grade 6 math and the differentiated support for our students with disabilities and ELs. That is really important, that we're learning the same curricula, but it's so targeted to each student's needs and not having that student feel separated because they learn differently. I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of this model or this curriculum is that every student is learning based on their individual needs. So I was very impressed. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Spataforova. Mr. Bernard.
Thank you. You know, I do want to go and say thank you for the presentation. It was informative. And I also like that where you've gone and you're offering tools to some of the ELL and some of the kids that have specific learning plans, to go and have other options for them. I think there's a lot of kids that it might behoove us to go and make sure that we're pointing out to our professionals to look out for kids that might be having a problem grasping and shifting those tools to also kids that don't have those specific needs, because I know there's a lot of students that might be hitting a roadblock, and all of a sudden they have to hear it or they have to see the example, and then all the concepts will go and suddenly click in. So that, I would strongly encourage that, but I'm glad that we have those tools that we can go and we can use. I think the two questions that I've got are, one is that I know that for AEAP we had to go in and send teachers to specialized training. I know this is probably part of the curriculum in general, but I also want to go and make sure is there, if we have a teacher that might be hitting their own roadblock with some of this stuff, or, what's the plan for going and making sure that they're getting counseled appropriately so that they can go and they can do their training and help the kids?
And that's a great point, because we all hit, kind of points in the road where we're like, I could just use another opinion, or I need help. And that's why we're really fortunate here in the district to have both literacy and math coaches at each of our K through 8s. And they are really the boots on the ground people, the relationships with the teachers, and the person who says, you know what, I'm here to help you. We'll brainstorm this together. And we're really lucky now in literacy, where we're actually setting up what we're calling lab or laboratory classrooms, where we have identified and worked with teachers, 2 to 3 or 4 teachers in every K to 8 school, who really have been kind of demonstrating some exemplary practice as they're implementing a new curriculum, and so that they can kind of welcome their peers in for 15 minutes at a time, 20 minutes at a time, to see a specific part of the lesson, even if it's not the same grade level, so that their peers can get some ideas, because it's a lot easier going down the hall and seeing your peer do something and say, okay, I can do that, I can implement that in my own classroom, than just watching a video of someone far away doing it. So that's really what we're excited about. We just had a visit last week where we kind of set those up, and so we're excited to get those started in the spring, but the coaches are really that ongoing support, in addition to all the initial training teachers have had.
Yeah, that, but for math. No, our coaches, the coaches are, to have one in every building, have it both for literacy and for math, is one of the strengths to our success and continued success in trying to implement this new curriculum. They've been fantastic, and they've been there working with teachers, and that's their goal, is to work with teachers, not with kids, but to help the teachers get better at what they do, because they know the curriculum, they know it well, they know instructional models, and they're able to help them move along.
Great. If you wanted to add, but no, I guess the only other question I have, and this is probably really more for the superintendent, is that I know that we're coming up with our own kind of definitions or explanations as to exceptional and quote-unquote gifted. I'm just curious, I would assume that there would be some sort of, are there any kind of guidelines from DESE on this? Because ultimately, they're the ones that will come down with the hammer to go and say, yes, you're either meeting these, or no, you can't come up with your own definition. So I'm just curious if they have definitions that we need to kind of incorporate into that, or is that something that we need to go and that they don't, and we're on our own, and we're kind of in the wild on this.
So DESE is still working on this. It's a working group. So far, there are no guidelines for schools to actually even have a program in the schools. So it is something national, some schools are exploring, some others are not. And when we say gifted, it's also, I think we had to differentiate that because it comes with an IQ test. So so therefore, we are working on our program studies. As you know, every single year we present it to you. So we will put some of that language in there to clarify things in our program studies. But DESE we don't have any pressure from DESE about any of these programs. this is something that we will do because we believe that it's happening, and it's happening in every single school, to support the students to move forward in the education. We can put definitions, absolutely, we had to be by DESE guidelines, but there's no actually sponsored program right now.
Okay, and I'll apologize for my use of the term gifted, because every kid does have their own
Yes,
gift,
only,
so.
yeah.
I think thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Bernard. Ms. Rose Syberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of questions and just some general comment things, which hopefully will help. There's a difference between enrichment and going deeper and acceleration services. And through the work I've been doing with the different working group and the contacts that I've been, people that I've been speaking to through this whole process, they give a wealth of knowledge. And DESE has actually put out a draft on different acceleration services that you can take a look at. So it's ideas, it's in draft form, but there are ideas there that we could be looking at. For a question about the honors pathway, it does say it's to recognize students for their above grade level academics. So I'm curious what is used to determine above grade level, and then if the content that has been put into this program is at grade level, or if it's at above grade level. And also if kids can access the program, it says after the first quarter grading criteria. What about after that? If a kid suddenly starts achieving, or is it if you don't make the cut by the first quarter, you know?
No, that's a great,
hold off?
those are great questions. So, at grade level, I mean, the criteria to get in is to do the first quarter grade, and so if they hit 89 or better on their first quarter grade, then they would be eligible in that subject. Remember, it's subject specific, so it's not monolithic. So if, we also don't want to penalize kids that, as you indicate, all of a sudden come into their own because, for example, in sixth grade, you've got new teachers, it's a new model in some schools, so there's a lot that goes into that. And so we want it to be as inclusive as possible, and that's one of the things we're going to be sussing out over the course of this pilot is to figure out where that line is. We also don't want to penalize kids that transfer into our school, at the end of first quarter, because I looked at the scores of the kids and the distributions of scores from first quarter and second quarter, and I saw a kid had no grade for first quarter, which means they weren't here, and then they got a 99 in the second quarter. And we're not going to exclude that student. We want to encourage as many students as possible to participate in this kind of program.
So I'm sorry, just to clarify again, so is this for kids who are above grade level or kids who meet that criteria? Because this criteria doesn't necessarily mean that you're above grade level.
I mean, so we want to get, it's a combination of two. That's what the teachers have been creating since the summer. They've been creating activities and looking at the curriculum. Remember, the middle school math, for example, the curriculum is brand new. So so they're trying to figure out how to, there are times when they'll go let's go beyond. And they'll look at that as pulling it right out of the curriculum as it's written. And then others, they'll say, okay, this is the topic that we're going to be covering. What can I add to supplement or to have the student demonstrate a knowledge that where they're there? So as an example, I'm going to use a bad example that I just made up. But if the standard is a student will multiply two-digit numbers. I know it's an elementary standard, but still, that could be the grade level standard. And to go deeper for that would be giving it to the student in a paragraph or in a word problem or something like that, so that they can still demonstrate their knowledge, but there's some added complexities to it that allows them to stretch that part of the brain that we want them to stretch. Beyond grade level is stuff that we'd be looking at literally, either to the next grade to try and sort of get them exposed to it initially, or it's something sometimes even that is not attached to a standard that is just of interest to us. Like, for example, in science, it could be something that isn't in the curriculum, but we know that student is very excited about. And so they might have even covered it the year before, but now they get a chance to really go deep into it while they're still staying in their class with those students.
And just the more that I've looked into the different curricula that the superintendent has brought in, I actually am really, I've said I want to go in and see it in action, because I do find it fascinating that the different abilities that you can do and to get kids to where they need to be. But again, I say that within also knowing that that's grade level work. and just that there's a difference between enrichment and acceleration. We've heard from students that they know that they can do accelerated work, and so I'm just holding you up as examples that, yes, I believe that there should be space for kids to do accelerated work as well, which is why I just wanted the clarification on what the honors, where that falls. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to our student representative. Miriam, go right ahead.
So I had a couple of questions, and just to start from the very beginning, when we talk about volunteer hours and we refer to the National Honor Society, first off, I think that's great. I think all kids should understand how great volunteer is. I just wanted to know, how are you tracking those hours, and how do you keep kids accountable for that? Because when it comes to this pathway, there's obviously going to be a huge number of kids. So I just wanted to know what the plan was to keep track of these hours, and like, are we keeping in touch with the people they're working with? Also, does it count if kids are volunteering outside of school? If they're volunteering after school, but part of the school, such as like maybe like staying after 30 minutes to help tutor a kindergartner and read with them, and I know some parents aren't used to the idea of kids staying after school and just coming home right after. Is there going to be communication about that? I just wanted to know a little more.
Excellent question. And so for the community service, we looked at all of those options, and we want to make sure that we cast the net as wide as possible. The only criteria that we came up with, and it's going to be a document, a form, with the kid's name on it, and then they'll write down, what they did, who supervised them, and the initials of the person, and how much time they spent on it. We wanted to make sure consciously that we gave kids opportunities in school, because there are some kids that don't have that ability outside of school, as you indicated. There are kids that are involved in extracurricular activities, scouts, whether it be Girl Scouts or Scouts BSA or other types of organizations. I am perfectly okay with kids double dipping, meaning doing both, getting credit for both, because they're already doing it. It's just, we want to try and make sure that both we recognize that, and that's what the honors designation is for. It's not about trying to make them do work. It's about trying them to see the joy in being able to commit to work in the community. The principals are aware of that. It could be, and you picked some really good examples. One of the examples we had was, reading buddies, or helping to supervise, the younger kids in some way, with supervision, of course. But the idea is to try and make sure that we give kids, just that taste of what it's like to be able to contribute. One other detail, just to be clear, since we're on this topic, is we're talking 10 hours regardless of how many subjects you do. So if you do, 3 of the subjects you're in the honors pathway, you only have to do 10 hours. You don't have to do 30. That would just be too much. Again, we're talking middle school, and we're trying to create as big a net as possible to recognize kids.
All right, thank you. And then I do have a lot of questions, but I'll keep it short. So you guys were talking about how important it is to have heterogeneous groups and keeping like a mix of people in the honors pathway with people who are taking the standard curriculum. I just wanted to know, is that something you plan on doing after the pilot as well?
Yes.
Okay, so then my question is, when it comes to the honors pathway and we talk about deepening their learning, right, and we give them a couple more questions. So when we looked at the ELA format, and some of the question was like, add a counter argument. Is that an added on question to the standard curriculum? So they just have a little bit more work on the side to further that education? Is that what it is? So does all students in that classroom get the same amount of time to do that work?
It might take a little bit of extra time for some of them, because that's the nature of some of the particular problems. I used the example I was mentioning to Victoria on the screen. I don't know if you can see it, but the idea is, you have the core problems, which are grade level, and they're challenging for most kids. And if kids get successful in that, then that's good for them. But then there's these challenges for kids to go beyond. At the high school, I know in my content areas, we have mild, medium, and spicy problems. So the idea is we want to give kids a mix and not create, sometimes it's the content, sometimes it's the prompt. So there's different things that you want to you don't want to push all the levers forward all at once so that all of a sudden a problem becomes way too complicated. It's about trying to thoughtfully create opportunities for those spicy kinds of problems that are a bit more challenging for that student, because they're capable of doing it. We want to get all the kids there eventually, but some kids don't. I mean, Ms. Bettifor, you were, I was not a stellar math student either, and I became an engineer. So I got better. And so it's about trying to at least expose kids to opportunities to learn some things that they might not have learned if they had just stuck with the grade level material, but it isn't going to be all the time. And that's why I'm excited, because we have 6 teachers right now. We have 3 more that just joined for this pilot. Next year it'll be all. It's not going to be extra prep for them. It's going to be actually an opportunity for them to draw from a repertoire of things that have been created, so that then they can incorporate it either in their regular lesson or as supplementary material, or whatever that teacher and the group of teachers that's working on it now can think of.
All right, and then, that sounds great, that sounds great. And since you mentioned that you have, 9 teachers in this pilot, right?
I have 6 that have confirmed. I have 3 that expressed interest, but I meet with them tomorrow.
Okay, is this scattered out with
Yes.
all the middle schools? So there is at least 1 teacher from each middle school?
It is scattered. It was open for volunteers, and I mean, they are being compensated for a little bit of their time, and so it is a random assortment of teachers. I've got mostly science and math for some reason, but I do know that we have an English teacher and social studies as well. So, but the pilot is going to be random. So a student might have no teachers that are going to be doing the pilot this year, and I have a letter that goes home to parents to explain that. The principals have it, and the idea is, this is a pilot. We're practicing. We want to work. It's not going to. We can't. I don't want to move forward a flawed system. And so for me, it's about trying to work the kinks out now, and we've been working on it now for almost a year. So I'm excited about seeing it implemented, and when it does, Dr. Noriega Murphy, and I will be looking at ways that, what works and what doesn't work, because we want to understand it.
Right. The reason why I asked that question was because I wanted to make sure that each teacher in this pilot is at Ferryway, Beebe, Salemwood, Linden, because these are all schools in different wards, different parts of Malden, meaning that they have a higher percentage of certain kids in one school versus the other. And when we talk about equity, which is the biggest portion of having a program that caters to kids who learn at different paces than the other, it's important to understand when we talk about equity that we are representing Malden as a community versus just parents or students from one school versus the other.
Absolutely.
So that way, if we have a teacher from each school, and it is volunteers, obviously, that may be flawed in some way, but making sure that they represent their school, and that, oh, well, this worked well for you, Linden, but this didn't work so well for Ferryway, and seeing how different the honors pathway would be for one school versus the other.
Yeah, no, I mean, as I said earlier, all means all. So at the moment, we have all 5 schools have at least one person that's expressed interest in participating, one staff member, a teacher. But we don't have one teacher in every subject. So, but as I said, there's 4 times 5 times 3. So we have enough teachers to, I think, give us a representative sample to help us understand how it's going.
All right, thank you.
No, keep going.
Are we done?
Thank you, yeah, I'm all good.
All right, let's go over to Mr. Gray.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple things I want to bring up, just to toss out there. Number one, as far as the promotion part of the presentation, I think there's a huge untapped resource that the school department can use, us. I think us as school committee members should do more to promote the honors, AEAP, and the programs in the school. I don't think we do enough, because, probably a lot of us up here can talk about parents who say, well, I didn't know that was happening, or I didn't hear about that. Regardless of how much information's put out, people are still falling between the cracks, and we do hear those complaints. We can reach out more. We, as school committee members, can reach out more and personally do something. The second one, just back to what I was talking about earlier, just to clarify, in my mind, it seems like pretty much forever. We work hard at every grade level, not just K to 8, but K through 12, to capture and bring every child up to grade level. We've always done that forever. That's just automatic. But this honors program, the K to 8, it seems officially to keep each child at grade level and not teach above grade level unless at the teacher's discretion, if the child wants more in, I'm struggling with terminology, an accelerated fashion. If that's what it is, I just want to make sure that it's clear that we all understand that the honors program is designed to teach at grade level and make the children proficient at grade level, but not above grade level. You know, I know, I don't want to get in an argument back and forth, because we've been going back and forth, and it just feels like we're talking past each other a little bit.
I mean,
Go right ahead.
okay, so we want all students to be at minimum at grade level.
Yes.
All students, absolutely. That is, to me, not up for debate. But we are a public school. We have a wide range of abilities. And again, it represents our community, and there are some kids that at a particular moment in time, they're going to be very, you know, I used to jokingly say it's either the singer or the song. Sometimes when kids are successful, they like the subject or they like the teacher. When both match at the same time, magic happens. And so for me, you know, this is opportunity to at least create that song available to the student, a curriculum that is going to allow them to step outside of their comfort zone where real learning takes place. That's going to be more engaging. I'm trying not to use the word richer or deeper, but it's going to be more engaging for them because they find it personally interesting. And yes, it is up to the teacher frequently to where whether a student is going to be recommended, but it's also, but all of our students are like that anyways. I mean, we trust our staff explicitly, implicitly. It's like I told one parent one time, we don't keep the good ones at home. We send them all to school because we have a great school system. And I've been here, and I came here because of what I know that this school system has to offer. I'm excited about this, like I haven't been excited about a lot of things, and I'm excited about a lot of things, but I'm excited about this because of the fact that it allows us to bring in more kids into that learning opportunity that sometimes gets lost. Mediocre school systems, and I've worked in many school systems in my career, they teach to the middle, and they just hope that, you know, the kids that are on the struggling will get picked up by special ed or by some other support network or safety net. We have those nets. But here's an opportunity for us to recognize the work the kids are doing that are sometimes above grade level, sometimes outside of grade level, sometimes they're just the same at grade level, but just a little bit more complicated. And so for me, I'm excited about creating this so that those kids can be recognized and feel good about themselves while still remaining with their peers and being able to stay engaged socially and emotionally with the peers as they move forward. And conversely, those students that sometimes are either at grade level or sometimes below grade level, they can work with those students and they can help each other move up higher. In my experience, when those things happen, when you have that heterogeneous type class, you know, all the kids rise higher and higher. And yeah, I can go on for 9 hours, but sorry.
Thank you, that was good. But I would caution you on one thing.
Sure.
If you keep using song metaphors, I might start singing. I don't think they want to hear me sing, so.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. We're going to hear from Ms. Spatafor for a second time, and then we're going to try to move forward, okay?
I'm going to keep this extremely quick because I just feel like everybody up here is talking and confusing two programs that were presented to us as if it's one program. So we were presented two different programs. One was a middle school honors program. The other program was a curriculum and instruction for high-performing students. So Mr. Gray had mentioned K through 8 honors, but we weren't presented a K through 8 honors. It was a 6 through 8 middle school honors program and curriculum and instruction specifically for high-performing learners. So I just don't want there to be confusion amongst the members up here, because I feel like it's because they were presented one after another, that it might have gotten a little confusing.
Fair.
So-
I was focusing mine on the honors
Honors.
pathway. That's why I was trying to avoid the word program. So
Model.
that- Or model. I will incorporate that now. But the idea is, and it's just for grades 6 through 8.
Yes.
Is what I was presenting, because I'm 6 through 12, so.
Yes, and I just wanted to
Nope,
just
glad you did.
clarify it, because there seemed to be, maybe I'm wrong, but there seemed to be a little mingling of the two different models amongst the discussion, so.
Got it.
Thank you.
Very good. If I might, just from the chair, if I could have the panel come back. Just one thing that this body has always done is to try to find compromise, although I hope we never have to do that again, because I forget how we even got to where we are tonight. Curriculum belongs with the superintendent, belongs with you, belongs with the educators. I mean, our role is to hire the superintendent to do that with you. So, and I think Ms. Spatafora said that many times before, that this is not our role per se. But be that as it may, it has been, it is with this particular program. And I see where you're going, and I personally like the direction, but what would you say to these two student speakers behind you who I thought spoke really eloquently tonight as to how what it is you're suggesting would benefit them moving forward? What will they see going from where we've been to where you're hoping you'll take us?
I would say that, that they would see the same high-quality education that other kids get. They would be incorporated and participate with their peers, not be segregated into a separate group. They would have opportunities to learn beyond grade level, and they'd be able to contribute what they know when they're excited about what they're learning with other students. You know, learning isn't one way, and we think about it with a teacher to student, and you know, feedback is student to teacher. But one of the most valuable methods of learning is student to student. And all the curriculum that we have is in promoting conversations between students about what they see, how they think, because it deepens their appreciation for each other as well as for the content that they're learning. So for me, it's about creating a richer environment for them, because that's what the world is about.
Got it. Please, Mr. Welbeck, who hasn't spoken yet, go
Thank you,
right
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman. And I think I've been listening, and I think I relate to, and that resonates to what you said, and I think this discussion, which has been really good, and has gotten into the weeds, I think, a bit more than we're used to, sort of illustrates why we're not the ones who make decisions about curriculum and instruction. And I think that's a function of the school committee, right? We don't make decisions about curriculum and instruction. We hire and we trust, and we know that there are educational experts who do that. And I think that for the first time in a while, this does address, I think, the primary function of what we were looking for curriculum to do, which was grow. It would meet any kid where they are and find a way for them to grow. Some people, that's getting them to grade level standard. Some people, that's pushing them above grade level standard. Some people, and they're different terms, so we can't use them interchangeably. Some people, it's going deeper into grade level standards. But it meets the kids where they are and provides them an opportunity to grow. And I think that's to me, the key piece of this discussion that I think might be getting left out when we kind of talk about program, model, and do all of these different interchangeable things that are confusing each other, I think. But it meets kids where they are and provides them targeted and legitimate, not just the usual, like, we're gonna have this kid read that again and try it again and write it one more time. It's targeted and legitimate ways to have a student grow. And I appreciated, I think, hearing that in the presentation, so thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Waldeck. So, Soup, I guess I'm not sure if the committee even needs to act. You know, I suppose someone could make any motion, but from what I've heard this evening, this just could be an evolution of where we've been and where we're going. You know, I don't think, you know, we need to use the word eliminate or get rid of. I mean, I think the committee just has to determine whether or not what they heard this evening is where we think we should be going. If we don't, then I suppose someone could make a motion, but let's see what the members have to say. I mean, Soup, do you want to add anything before we try to finalize this? Because I know we have other business on the docket.
Just my surprise that we are having this conversation at this level, I'm just going to say, because programming, curriculum instruction is under the purview of the superintendent. So I have been asking that question since we started, and I'm just making sure that our roles and responsibilities stay very, very clear that, yeah, we are going to talk more about what goes under the purview of the superintendent. But I will go with your suggestions. When we start planning for our program studies for next year, we will take all into consideration when we start planning for our academic year, and you will see the draft. So just to let you know that I'm very surprised that it has come to this level. That's it.
Very good. So what say you? Let's go to Ms. Rose Zyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, I know that you know, we do have a resolution that we've already been working on, and I still believe the need for a resolution that puts into effect basically to get us back on track, because I did learn the history of how we got here, and I want to make sure we're in the right lane, and I want to make sure going forward, this doesn't happen again.
Okay.
So I can
Please.
read the resolution and open to friendly amendments and things if that ends up happening. But this says, whereas the Malden Public Schools' goal is to graduate all students ready to succeed in a diverse, local, national, and global community, and whereas the Malden School Committee believes in raising the achievements of all students, and whereas the Malden School Committee requires that the Malden Public School District provide every student with access to high-quality curriculum, support, and other educational resources. And whereas the Malden School Committee acknowledges that students learn at different speeds than their peers. Therefore, be it resolved, the Malden School Committee recommends the retirement of the current Accelerated and Enrichment Academic Program, AEAP, to be replaced with programs that better meet the needs of the students of Malden Public Schools. Be it further resolved, the superintendent includes in the yearly program of studies the method in a program that will be used to address the needs of students performing at a higher level than their peers within their assigned grade. A specific method in our program will also address the needs of students who are determined to be above grade level in any subject matter using objective data such as IXL and iReady. These methods and our programs are to be subject-based and offered at each school in the district serving K-8 students. The methods and our programs will be updated in the program of studies as needed, at minimum once a year, before each submission of the program of studies to the school committee. The school committee will receive the program of studies no later than May of each year for discussion and approval. That, in essence, it's what we've talked about. It's exactly what was said tonight. I do believe one of my big concerns in looking at everything that has gone on, historically, there was a program, and it didn't get fostered. We weren't visiting it enough. We weren't paying attention to it. By including something in the program of studies, which I'm a big fan of, it lets us also say to a parent or anybody who comes to our school district, this is what we do for your child. I actually loved, I don't know if folks did, I loved hearing all the stuff about going into extensions and how we work with kids at all these different levels. And I've had a lot of parents ask me that question. How do we do it? How do we do it? How do I make sure that my kid's getting what they need? I would love to be a member of the school committee who can say, page 10, program of studies, it's all laid out there for you. And to know that we are nurturing that every single year, because we're going to be held accountable. We're going to be held accountable, superintendent's office will be held accountable, that we're not going to let more programs or methods, whichever we term, or pathways, fall apart. That it puts us on alert, it holds us accountable, so that these students who speak and come and say, we want this, that we're meeting their needs. We know that there's a need. You provided lots of data. I want to thank everybody who has actually been in this process, because we got a lot of information, and at some point, I went in open-minded, and then at some point it changed for me from this program to, are we meeting the needs of our district? The thought process changed for me, because we saw that we have kids across this whole district who need accelerated learning. They're above grade level. What are we going to do? I don't have an answer, because we know they don't come, they haven't come to the program as it's existed. We don't, but that need is still there. And then we saw, well, we don't have enough to make a classroom. If we look at the numbers, so we might not be able to run a program. Well, wait a minute. I still have some kids who need it, and now they're not going to get with it. So to do it this way and formalize it and make it part of our program of studies guarantees these folks, we made promises to them, they can hold us accountable. And that's where this came from, my heart of wanting to meet the needs of every kid. It's always been centered on that. And I just want to be sure that we're all on that same page and that we are held accountable to it.
Very good. Let's see if there's a second. Ms. Spatafora, you seconding? All right, let me have Ms. Spatafora second. Everybody understand? All right, now we could take some discussion on the motion, but I must remind everyone the hour is late. We still have a long agenda ahead. So let's go to Ms. Spatafora. You want to speak on it as well? Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was seconding that, as I was a co-sponsor on this resolution with Ms. Rose Iberg. And I think the meat and potatoes of this resolution is really, again, what we spoke to before. Our job as school committee members is to handle the budget, to create policy and procedures, to hire a superintendent. We have hired a superintendent that's quite capable of bringing quality curriculum to our students. And I think that's where we need to entrust her to create that model, create that pathway for these students. There is a need. I think every single one of us have sat up here and have acknowledged it. In every other meeting, we've talked about the AP program. There is a need. There are students that that learn differently, and we can say that in saying they're gifted. We can say that with special needs students. We all, every single one of us, sit up here and learn differently. The current program, as it stands, wasn't meeting the needs of all students. It was only meeting the needs of a select few. And I think by having a model, and we had 3 highly qualified directors stand up here and present to us I know they don't want to hear the word program. Model, pathway, that does meet the students. Where they're at pushes them above to where they can be. And I think we can be at the forefront, really, as a district of where we're taking our curriculum, and not just providing a public education. It's more than that. So I support this resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Spatafora. Mr. Gray, and then over to Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, a little background. This AEAP program has been in the purview of the school committee for at least the last 5 years. In 2019, the school committee unanimously voted to promote and expand the AEAP program and had an ad hoc subcommittee that pushed it and asked the superintendent to develop it and expand it. Then 2020 hit, the pandemic hit, and everything fell apart. And then the school committee voted to suspend the AE program in 2020. Maybe technically it's within the purview of the superintendent, but the school committee did take control of this for at least the last 5 years, up or down, good or bad. That's the history. Concerning this motion, is it possible we can get a little more clarity in some of the points in the motion? Is it possible I can make a motion to amend?
How?
Just to clean up or clarify some of the language. And there's a couple lines that I think are a little vague. There's no way for me to do it en masse here. But on the line where it says a specific method and a program will also address the needs of students who are determined to be above grade level in any subject matter using objective data such as IXL and iReady. Would it be possible to amend that to say a specific method and a program will also address the needs of students who are determined to be significantly above the prevailing grade level of their Malden peers in any subject matter using objective data such as IXL and iReady? To add a little more clarity to the language of exactly which children, under what circumstances, are being targeted?
I mean, we could ask the sponsor, but my intuition is we're going right back down that rabbit hole again by getting as specific as you're suggesting. But let's see what the sponsor has to say. Do you fully?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just point out at the beginning part of that was actually intended to address that exact issue. Will be used to address the needs of students performing at a higher level than their peers, which I do understand that it's vague, but it does mean their peers. It doesn't say that they are above grade level. It says that they're doing better than their peers. And honestly, to me, after hearing the presentations and discussing at length the curricula that's in place, I think we already have that piece. I am quite thrilled with the amount of differentiated learning and opportunities for enrichment for kids who are at a higher level than their peers. Does not indicate that you are at an above grade level. You are at that higher need, that you've already mastered some of your standards. You want to go deeper learning. You want to go extension. So we have that piece.
Okay, does that work, Mr. Gray?
Mr. Gray.
Yes. Just one more. The part where it says the methods and/or programs will be updated in the program of studies as needed at minimum once a year before each submission, blah, 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 blah. Could we amend that and clarify that the program of study shall clearly outline which types of acceleration services will be considered using standard terminology? Can we start with that?
I'm not sure I follow. Can you elaborate? Again, Mr. Gray, just be mindful.
Okay.
I don't think we want to take back from the superintendent what we had over the past 5 years, as you alluded to.
Well, it says the method on program will be updated in the program of studies as needed without specifying what they are.
Okay, Ms. Rose Iberg, do you want to comment, or Ms. Spatafora as the co-sponsor? Ms. Spatafora, stand by 1 second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in reading that sentence, the method and/or programs will be updated in the programs of studies as needed, at a minimum of once a year. So once a year, the Policy and Procedure Subcommittee sits down, reviews the program of studies, sends it to the full committee for approval. If the superintendent wants to make changes to the program of study throughout the year, that as needed means she can send it to us 5 times if she wants. So it's as needed is just a definition of time.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. I just wanted to know what the mechanism would be to clarify some of the terminology.
Does that work, Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Okay. So no amendments to the resolution then? You're satisfied with those responses? You said, did you have anything else?
No. I
Okay.
might sing, but no.
Got it. Let's go to Mr. Bernard, and then
I was
let's,
gonna go and, I'll pull back.
okay, got it, all right.
Just to be respectful of time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bernard. So I don't see any other lights, so we have a motion seconded by Ms. Spatafora. Let's have a roll call on it, if you would, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Drummond?
He's coming back, yeah.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Spatafora?
Yes.
Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Mr. Welder?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
No.
Mr. Bernard?
I have to vote no.
Ms. Rose Iber? Yes. Mayor Christensen?
Yes. So, Madam Clerk, I believe that's 7-2?
Yes.
7-2 in support of the resolution. All right, very good. So now the next order of business is,
I actually wanted, the calendar has to be voted.
yep, yep, and that's on here,
yeah.
so,
And to, if we can just acknowledge that, the Stop the Stigma Day is coming up. And
yes.
Do you want me to go back to the,
Yes, please.
I got you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. These are different activities that we are going, that we had, and let's move on to the next one, Adam, because of time, that's it. So on March 8th, we are going to have our school visits, and for the Stop the Stigma, and thanks to Paul Hermesley, who gave us a video, thanks to the high school who made the video, our middle school students have reviewing it, and they created some units, thanks to Charlie, in every health class, so all our students are going to be aware of what this is, and also learning more about what they can do in their lives to make sure this doesn't happen to them or their relatives. That was the only thing I want to say, and thanks to all the high school students who participated on Saturday in the theater festival, and also the poetry read aloud. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any questions of our superintendent? Hearing none. Let's go to Ms. Spatafora, Policy and Procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a brief update. The Policy and Procedure Subcommittee was tasked to review or create a transfer policy outside of the current policy, which stands as a student wishing to, or a family that wishes for their student to transfer schools in district would be put on a waiting list until if a spot wasn't open. If a spot's open, then they're able to make one transfer a year to school. But we were tasked at looking at if there was a safety concern, extenuating circumstances. So the subcommittee met on, March 1st and approved unanimously a policy that was put together by our superintendent. And that is down in motions and resolutions. I'd like to tie it all in together
Please.
so we can get through. So the safety and extenuating circumstance transfer is necessarily for, or specifically for a student, and I'm just going to go through the criteria really quickly. A student that is a victim of bullying, students that are victims or intended victims of a serious physical, emotional, or electronically transmitted threat, or who are victims of a violent criminal offense as determined by state law, students that are on IEP plans, or specialized program that require a less restrictive setting shall be reassigned after consultation with the education school team principal, adhering to the IEP process in which the team would meet and determine. Court orders that require a stay-away order of a student would be honored, and a copy of that court order would be a part of the documentation packet that's submitted, as well as maybe a caregiver that has to move due to military service, and the student has to then reside with another family member that, say, lives next to Linden rather than Beebe. So this was voted out unanimously out of the subcommittee and is here for approval by the committee as a whole, so the superintendent can then act on any requests that she may have.
Motion by Ms. Spatafora, seconded by Mr. Weldy. Questions? Chair hears none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Spatafora. So we're down to motions and resolutions. We've already addressed the accelerated student learning resolution. We just took care of item number 2, which is the transfer policy. Now over to Mr. Bernard. Resolution in support of an act relative to universal school meals. Mr. Bernard.
Thank you. I just wanted to go and, we tabled this last session, and there were some questions that have been asked about how this was going to be financed. So I do want to go, and I did send out a copy of the actual law, because it was pointed out to me that the financing is actually in the law. It says that, and to quote specifically, to the extent that costs are not reimbursed through federal funds, the cost of making available school lunches and breakfast shall be borne by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And I believe this is how we go, and basically what we go and we have currently in place is that the department will reimburse the difference between what the Department of Agricultural goes and pay, what the federal funds go and pay, and the free rate that's set by the Secretary of Agriculture. So basically, we would not be on the hook for anything past what we're already going and paying. Also, I just want to go and point out that we do have not just a fiduciary and financial responsibility, but we also go and have, as part of our wellness policy, a specific responsibility to our students to make sure that not only are we giving them healthy meals, but we are also going and making sure that we are seeking out and trying to go and find every reasonable way to go and pay for those meals. And certainly I go and I feel that I personally feel that going and endorsing this and asking our state legislature to go and to carry this through as part of that process to make sure that we are not going to go in, fail our students by not going and seeking out every dollar, dime, penny that we can to go and make sure that they're getting good, healthy food. And also, again, that we're also respecting those that have done a lot of work in providing very culturally competent meals. So I provided the language of the resolution. I won't bore the people by going and reading that unless specifically required, but I would hope that you can all find a way to vote yes on this.
Very good. Motion by Mr. Bernard, seconded by Mr. Drummy. All right, questions? Everybody had their questions answered? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. All right, let's go over to Mr. Weldy. Revision to the Malden Public Schools calendar for 2023-2024 for preschool start date.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sponsoring this, but I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent just to explain the minor change that we need to make, we'd like to make.
Yes, and the better person to explain why would be Ms. Lawrence. At this moment, we have kindergartens starting with our 1st to 12th graders, and the proposal is that all pre-kindergartens start with kindergarten on September 7th, and the reasons are going to be explained by Ms. Lawrence, who is the principal of the ELC.
Hi. So we are asking that the preschool start at the same time as the kindergartners, because currently the preschool is starting with everyone else in the district. And what it's creating is there's a lapse in, well, there's a couple of things that are happening. So the preschool starts out on the same day as everyone else. And if they attend school 2 or 3 days, they won't re-enter school for 7 days after their first day of school. And if they are in school, if they attend 5 full days, then they will not re-enter school for 6 days after the second or third day that they start. So we know that we deal with preschool, and this is their first experience with school. And if anyone has ever been to the ELC for the first day of school, it's a lot of crying, screaming, you know, things like that. But it's also nerve-wracking for parents to get their kids ready and then they're done for a while. So they're starting the process all over again. In addition, having those gaps between when kids are starting from their first day or second day to their next day of school, we're asking for a change to start when the kindergarten starts, so that the staff can use that time to do assessments, do tours of the school, engage families more during that time so we can have answer their questions, do benchmark testing. So we test all of our students either using the VB map or we do the report card. So this will allow that space for families to come in, meet with teachers, do some testing, get kids acquainted with the school, specifically our new students and our students with more complex disabilities, that it is often challenging for them to start and stop, because people don't understand that they need a continuation of services. And so we are requesting that we move. And also, the teachers won't be just sitting there twiddling their fingers like, oh, it will be time spent getting necessary materials. A lot of our kids use PECs and devices and things like that. So we want to make sure that when our kids enter the building, there isn't a rush to have everything there and prepared. And then we also know with registration, kids can't start until they are fully registered at the ELC or any school. And so this also allows time for our admin assistants to make sure they have all of the necessary materials that they need so that kids can start school on time.
Very good. So, Mr. Waldeck, you've made the motion, seconded by Mr. Bernard. Questions, everyone? Anyone? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Thank you.
The ayes have it, that carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, everyone, last motion and resolution, school choice vote. Mr. Waldeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the school choice vote that we have come before us every year with the confusing verbiage. So, and I'm going to look to Mr. Ryan, make sure I'm saying it right. So the school choice vote means if we do nothing, students from outside of Malden can opt into coming to our district, which we would then incur the cost of. So every year we vote to not participate as a school choice district, so I believe the motion will be to not participate, and we would be voting yes. Did I do that right? Did I do it backwards?
It's the other
I
way
think it's
around.
backwards.
Did I do it back? So maybe is it a motion to participate and then we vote no?
Yes.
All right. Let's do it that way.
So
So I'll
motion,
make a motion to participate as a school choice district.
seconded by, who was that? Mr. Drummy.
It keeps me in line.
So, everyone, a no vote is not to participate. A yes vote is to participate, to allow school choice. Everybody clear? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Drummy?
No.
Mr. McCarthy?
No.
Ms. Pettifora?
No.
Ms. Macklin?
No.
Mr. Waldeck?
No.
Mr. Gray?
No.
Mr. Bernard?
No.
Ms. Roseibert? No. Mayor Christensen?
No. That carries unanimously. We're now at personal privilege. We still have executive session to go, so I'd ask the members to keep their points brief. Personal privilege is now available. We'll start with Mr. Drummy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It will be brief. This Wednesday, February 8th, Title I bingo for books will be at the Ferryway School. Fairway Scholastic Book Fair will start the following week on March 13th. Fairway PTO is having theirs monthly Zoom meeting on March 14th also. If you go to the Fairway PTO website, it'll have all the information on how to hook into it. And last but not least, those of you that like pizza, Fairway is having a Pizza fundraiser, and that starts the week of March 19th. So bring your appetite and your pocketbook and have some pizza. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Drummy. Over to Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It's that time of year again for the Malden High School Junior Variety Show.
Yes.
This coming weekend, Friday, March 10th, and Saturday, March 11th. The show on Friday is at 7 p.m. And Saturday is at 6 p.m. Tickets are $10 in advance. I believe you can buy them online. And then $12 at the door. All ticket sales will support the class of 2024. And both shows will be obviously at the Jenkins Auditorium at the high school. That's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. From the Salem Wood, this Wednesday, March 8th, is Stop the Stigma Day. Thank you. On March 10th, there's an 11 a.m. dismissal. Please make sure the parents that you're ready to go and pick up your kids on time. On March 15th is the K-8 Parent-Teacher Conference, going from 4:30 to 6. Come meet and see how your kids are doing, and enter through the lower level at the K-4 entrance. On the 29th is the Title I Family Bingo at the 5-8 Cafe, starting at 6 p.m. And then finally, the Salem Wood is looking to do a calendar fundraiser, and they need help. If anyone is able to go and donate a gift card, a gift basket, or cash towards prizes, please reach out to either the assistant principal, Ms. Wright, or to Ms. Van. We're hoping to have calendars for sale in mid-April and drawings for the month of May. And then finally, for those that celebrated, Happy Purim.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Mr. Weldy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am currently learning a lesson and why I need to write stuff down and not rely on, my phone service is so bad, it says SOS, not even one bar. But I want to say, and I'm going to look to my friend Mr. Concan and yell out with me, that there's a Forestdale PTO meeting on March 20th via Zoom, and Read Across America is welcoming guest readers again into the building, which is really exciting after a couple-year hiatus this coming Friday morning. And last but not least, I do want to mention, and I've been thinking about this since the beginning of the meeting, that I really want to express appreciation to the superintendent and her team, all of whom are here today, because I think today this meeting was a really great example of the ability to utilize your voice in this district now, right? From the K-4 report cards, which started out as an idea that someone had that they reached out to and they got connected through a pathway, to the extensive amount of conversations that we've all had with parents surrounding accelerated learning, that I know that you and your team have been meeting with groups of parents, and that Ms. Rose Zyberg and Ms. Spatafor have been meeting with groups of parents, and I learned a lot from a number of the parents that I was able to talk to. And I've been thinking about that since the beginning. I think this was a really wonderful display of how we value stakeholder voice from top to bottom. So I appreciate that. And that's it for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Half day on Friday, school site council at BB, 5 p.m. on March 22nd. We have a Title I bingo night coming up at BB on the 22nd as well, 6 p.m. And I just want to say kudos to our literacy department, Title I, because they're amazing. I went to a kindergarten sound parade on Friday where little kids like marched around with the sounds of their letter. I miss kindergarten. Title I bingo. And then I just want to say, we have two really special birthdays in the month of March, one being our chair, so happy birthday.
Shut her mic off. Hold on, everyone.
I do it every year. And I have, I get to wish our superintendent a very happy birthday that is coming up. I won't say the date, but it's,
I don't know, the way I'm going.
and that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, very good, thank you. Let's see, let's go to Ms. Macklin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say quickly that it is almost prom season, and Anton's every year does the Belle of the Ball. I know that I sent you the information. I have flyers here tonight for distribution, and our student representative can take one also. But you need to have a referral, and the deadline for the referral is March 17th. It's really awesome. They take you, you get an appointment, you go to someplace in the back bay, you can pick out your prom dress, your shoes, your accessories. It's like a little shopping experience. So any juniors or seniors in need of some prom assistance, I'll certainly put that on social media, but the superintendent will have the information to distribute as well. That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Macklin, and then Ms. Rose Zyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Linden PTO is having a fundraiser tomorrow, March 7th, at Fresco's Dine-In or Take Out from 5 to 8. I also want to add Happy Purim to those who celebrate, and also take this time to thank and acknowledge the many women in my life during Women's History Month. A tie-in for that, the Zonta Club of Malden does have an event on March 30th that is called Women Making a Difference. We'll be recognizing different women from the city and also organizations, and that information can be found on social media and the Zonta of Malden website. And also just to sort of back up what Mr. Weldy had said, just a deep appreciation and a deep thanks for everybody who came together to work through this situation over a course of many, many months. And I look forward to this coming all to a fruition, and just to know that it's been a collaborative effort all along, and we all support the students. It comes down to what's best for them. So thank you.
Very good, thank you. And if I might, just from the chair, if you haven't had an opportunity, I would encourage all of you to tune in to see the 2023 State of the City address. I am most proud, not only of Henry Fan, but of just the way that school section came out. We go at such a clip, we never really get to, as I say often, stop and smell the roses, but this address affords us to do that, and we just continue to be proud of what's happening in the district, which is a credit to all of you here this evening. So thanks for making that so, and again, if you have an opportunity to see it, it's on the city's YouTube channel, as well as with UMA, Urban Media Arts, who was a partner in this. One of the sections, if you want to just get to the heart of it, it's the Charlie Conifrey section. That's about midway through. And prior to that was the school department, so. Yeah. All right, everyone. So with that being said, we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Motion by Ms. Spatafor, seconded by Mr. Bernard. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McCarthy? Ms. Pettifora? Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Mr. Weldy?
Yes.
Mr. Gray? Mr. Bernard? Ms. Rose Zyberg? Mayor Christensen?
Yes. School committee will now be in executive session.
Thank you to all of our interpreters. We appreciate you.
Recording stopped.
All right, school committee is back. We'll entertain any motions of the members. Ms. Spatafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve the salary adjustment for the Assistant Business Manager / Financial Analyst, Ms. Janelle Summers, in the amount of $105,000 effective February 6, 2023.
Seconded by Mr. Drummy. Any questions? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Drummond? Yes. Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Spatafora?
Yes.
Ms. Macklin?
Yes.
Mr. Waldeck?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Bernard?
Yes.
Ms. Rosa-Ziba?
Yes.
Mayor Christensen?
Yes, that carries unanimously. Motion by Ms. Spatafora to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Drummy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? I guess that says it all right there. School committee is hereby adjourned.